Hey there, that guy T. Got a couple of questions for you because I really can't make heads or tails of your outlook on things. So, earlier today I noticed that a number of YouTubers had gotten into it over the concepts around copyright laws, and one of that guy T's tweets stood out to me in particular. You see, with the lawsuit being filed by the Bible Reloaded based on fraudulent copyright claims submitted against them by the Cristiano Film Group and 5 and 2 Productions, copyright law seems like the next big Twitter YouTube topic after the Atheism is Unstoppable doxing saga. So yeah, a brand new internet shitstorm and another point in my life where I don't have the restraint needed to keep from throwing my 2 cents in. Now, my interest was piqued when that guy T gave this response to Amos Yee's Twitter account, as he noted that he was against the Bible Reloaded's campaign, in which they're working to spread awareness about what's going on with them and how people can help their cause. Quote, I'm against at Bible Reloaded's campaign, by the way. I don't condone raising $100,000 to steal a person's money for filing false copyright claims. End quote. Which was an edited version of his previous tweet, where he had said that he was against raising the money and using the state to lock someone in a cage for filing false copyright claims. To his credit, he noted his mistake when the Bible Reloaded corrected him regarding how this will be a civil case and not a criminal one. In any case, that guy T saw Amos's tweet and replied with the following. At Amos Yee at Bible Reloaded, I'm in the same boat. I support them in principle, but fuck running to the state begging for solutions. So, as a libertarian, that guy T opposes the concept of the state governing how people live their lives. From what I can tell, he claims to support personal freedom up to the point where you are directly infringing upon the freedoms of someone else. Something of a modified take on the social concept of Jean-Jacques Rousseau's social contract, whereby existing in a society engages us in a social contract to cooperate to a certain extent with one another to ensure safety for all involved. Some people interpret this to mean that society should create a police force and military in order to protect itself, the administration of which must be done by a governing body, where others, like that guy T, seem to take the approach that it should be interpreted only so far as to maintain basic safety from individual or government overreach or violence, but beyond that, the contract doesn't exist. Of course, the Bible Reloaded had an issue with that guy T's tweet, confronting his opinion by saying, the state? Courts are there to protect rights. I'm being fucked by a corporation, and I should just take it? No. And they're right. In the United States, as a system of checks and balances, there are 3 branches of government. The legislative branch, which creates laws, the executive branch, which enforces the laws, and the judicial branch, which interprets laws according to the United States Constitution. The Bible Reloaded is seeking to sue the Cristiano Film Group under a law that the legislative branch created based on the judicial branch's interpretation of that law. Though they are using laws created and interpreted by the United States government, they aren't really relying on the state for anything new here. No new laws or anything, simply to hand down a judgment based on the interpretation of existing laws. Of course, any use of government or court powers seems to be interpreted by that guy T and so many other libertarians and anarchists as fundamentally wrong. So of course he had this to say to the Bible Reloaded. Never said you should take it. To be fair, if you were against copyright altogether, I might consider supporting. At Bible Reloaded at Amos E. So there are a couple of issues that I have with this tweet. First of all being that altogether in this sense should be altogether as a single word with only one L rather than the 2 separate words. Normally this wouldn't be a big enough deal to mention, but when someone's lacking grasp of grammar starts hampering their ability to save characters in a tweet, well, now we've got an issue. With the petty shit out of the way, though, who am I kidding, this is all pretty petty, I would like to ask you this question, T, if I might refer to you by your shortened handle. Why is it that you seem to want to deal so exclusively in absolutes? I first noticed your adherence to absolutism during a live stream with Sargon of Akkad, in which you two went back and forth for what seemed like an unnecessarily long time because you refused to support the petition because you didn't agree with having the state get involved in the issue, despite the state already being part of the issue insofar as the petition covers public educational institutions, which means that they are entirely or partially government funded already. T, I can tell that you're a principled individual. You've got your beliefs and your values, and you're going to stick to your guns on them. But from what I've noticed is you refuse to budge on principle. But continue your pursuing goals, and the only two options eventually left become failure or armed revolution. And depending on just how principled you are, failure may or may not be an acceptable option to you, and that's where things start to get concerning. You see, if you refuse to use the powers of the state to reduce the state's power, then what can you do? If you oppose processes because they are of the state, but you could use them to peacefully reduce the power of the state, does this make it okay to compromise your opposition to that which is of the state in order to defeat it? If I've managed to confuse anyone here, which I'm betting I have because I've managed to confuse myself, let me try to put it into an analogy. Imagine that you are this NVA soldier, and that your principles as a proud North Vietnamese communist compel you to fight the capitalists and either kill them or push them out of your, or at least what you perceive to be your country. Now, you are extremely principled, so much so that you will not take any benefit from the trappings of capitalism. Now imagine that you are isolated, cut off from the rest of your group, and you have run out of ammunition for your communist-made AK-47 rifle and Tokarev pistol. But a dead American soldier lies next to you with a functioning M16 and plenty of ammunition in his kit. What do? Do you shun all things capitalist and attempt to fight the enemy with your bare hands, dooming yourself in the process? Or do you pick up the capitalist-made weapon and use it to continue the fight? You can maintain your principles and lose, or compromise on your principles and maybe win. Which do you choose? This is, in essence, the situation that you will find yourself in if you refuse to budge from your anti-state principles. You will either need to use government processes like elected individuals and courts to accomplish your goals, or you will need to fight a bloody revolution that you really have no serious hope of winning. Which will it be? Now, that's a much larger, much broader question than I wanted to ask, or at least that I wanted to ask ever since that live stream segment between you and Sargon. But up next comes my questions as they pertain specifically to copyright law. So to kick off this portion of the video, I'll start with a question that came to my mind immediately upon reading this tweet. You say that you don't think that the guys over at the Bible Reloaded should take it from the Cristiano Film Group, but you don't provide alternate recourse for the issue. If copyright laws shouldn't exist, and there shouldn't be a body of the state designed to settle disputes between parties, then how can one party take action against another party that has slighted them? They can't head on over to the Cristiano Film Group's headquarters and demand repayment by force. That's just looking for a breeding ground of lawlessness and violence. But without a court system legitimized by the consent of the governed, how should they go about that? You make some horribly flawed arguments through tweets from you to Spinosauruskin and the Bible Reloaded, as well as unaddressed tweets, in which you bring up how the Colt 1911 and the CZ75 are the most copied firearm designs in the world, and the original companies still make money off of them. And then you show 4 pictures of different dresses and ask which company should be sued for copyright infringement. Come on, man, really? In your first example, the reproduction of the Colt 1911 style pistol by other manufacturers is going to require that these companies apply to Colt for licenses to produce patented parts and designs from the 1911, as it was patented by John Moses Browning back on February 14th, 1911 under U.S. patent number 984519A. There are a number of ways that Colt's Manufacturing Company, now Colt's Manufacturing LLC, makes money off the 1911 handgun. It maintains an identity in the consumer's mind that is tied to quality as the originator of the design, and it generates revenue from other companies using its design that it owns the patent rights to. So this tweet alone essentially goes against your whole anti-state mechanism argument, since it's the US Patent Office whose system allows for Colt to generate income when other companies want to copy their design and factors in it. I don't know how things work with the Cheska Zbrojovka firearms company, because then you're dealing with former Soviet bloc laws possibly, and I'm nowhere near qualified to speak in regards to them. But I would presume that in the modern day, patent laws still apply in some case. It could also be, like Colt, that as the original designer of the CZ75, people hold CZ75 models actually made by the Cheska Zbrojovka firearms company in higher regard than duplicates from other manufacturers. In your red dress tweet, you post 4 pictures of different dresses and ask which company should be sued on the basis of copyright infringement. Here's the funny thing, none of them. But I don't think you understand the actual reason why copyright infringement hasn't occurred here, despite there being precedent for suits based on intellectual property where no formal patent had been filed. You see, these dresses aren't copies, and just because you want to obfuscate things by showing 4 similar dresses in the same color, it doesn't change that fact. Just because these are all A-line dresses and they're all red, it doesn't mean that there's any claim for copyright, but again, not for the reasons you seem to think. It's not that there are no protections in place against the copying of another designer's creation, but simply that the restrictions don't apply to the dresses you've shown here because they're not copies. Each of these dresses has something that distinguishes it from the others in a meaningful way in the eyes of the fashion industry. In case my basic summary of your mistake here won't suffice, let me break it down for you. The first model, in the upper left here, is wearing a sleeveless red A-line dress with a scoop neck and a hem that is designed to fall above the knee. The second model, in the upper right, is wearing a red cap sleeve A-line dress with a cutaway midriff, again with an above-the-knee hemline. The third model, bottom left, is wearing a halter-style red zip A-line dress with a rear zipper, and once more we're seeing a hemline well above the knee. And finally, our fourth model here is wearing another sleeveless red A-line dress, but there seem to be no cutaways and the hemline is designed to fall at the knee for a more conservative approach than the others. What you have said with this tweet is essentially, these things are all the same, but no one's suing anyone over them. Why do you think that is? And you're using it as some kind of defense for your position that copyright laws don't need to or shouldn't exist. What you may as well be saying here is Ford, GMC, and Dodge all make half-ton pickup trucks. Can you believe that they're not suing one another for making half-ton pickup trucks? Sure, they have their own body designs and features, but they're all basically the same thing. Why aren't they fighting over copyright? Hopefully this analogy and my greater than need be wealth of women's fashion knowledge has helped you see the error in this tweet, if not your larger argument. And now we come to what I think was your greatest misstep in all of this, which was bringing fair use back into the equation. Now, fair use is a part of copyright law, essentially a notwithstanding clause, if you will. Just as there are exemptions to almost every rule, as most commonly referenced in the adage that it's the exception that proves the rule, there are limitations to all laws, including copyright law. You say in these tweets, quote, if you truly believe in honoring copyright, stop using other people's material, 100% original content or FOH, end quote. And, quote, if copyright is legitimate, then fair use is an infringement on the validity of that concept, again, end quote. So again, you display your adherence to absolutism in your unwillingness to work in spectrums or nuance, and that's only hurting your argument here, T. Look, a bunch of elected representatives sat down and put forth a bill, and when that bill passed, it was made into law. That law, in this case, was to do with copywriting material. As a part of that law, the exception for fair use was put in place to allow for material to be borrowed from its originator without being seen as a breach of copyright law, so long as the use of that material met the 4 factors of fair use. T, you're a YouTube content creator. You should know these things. When a fair use claim is made, a judge must consider the following in order to determine if the use of copyrighted material can be considered fair use. 1. The purpose and character of the use. 2. The nature of the copyrighted work. 3. The amount and substantiality of the portion used. And 4. The effect of the use upon the potential market. Sometimes a judge will consider the unofficial fifth factor of fair use, which is basically if they feel that you were acting in poor faith or not, based on the nature of your use of copyrighted material. It's not supposed to be a factor, but humans being fallible, it sometimes gets brought into the equation when a judge or jury can sufficiently explain their reasoning. Basically, it won't be listed as the reason, but it may affect how the other factors are interpreted in each case. So yeah, you can't throw out the entirety of the Bible Reloaded's claims regarding copyright law on the grounds they support fair use, because fair use is copyright law. Okay, so I think I've gone on for long enough in this video, and it's definitely time for me to wrap everything up. T, I don't think you're a bad person. I just think the methods by which you come to your conclusions and the ways in which you attempt to justify your arguments are flawed. As far as my questions for you go, the questions I wanted to ask in the simplest way possible were: 1. Why are you so focused on absolutes and hesitant when it comes to acknowledging nuance or spectrums and options within concepts? 2. As a derivative of my first question, why do you oppose the use of state resources like courts and laws when it comes to defending personal freedoms when, as a libertarian, you should theoretically be in support of people maintaining their freedoms without needing to physically harm other people or unnecessarily damage their livelihood? And 3. I know Twitter isn't the best place to try and hold a debate, but why did you use such flawed arguments in a situation where you have the time and space to sit back, compose yourself, and work to deliver a well-reasoned response? Dude, your dress and gun analogies were way off the mark. T, I mean no disrespect to you by any of this. I just want to make that clear. I may have questioned how you came to adopt the principles that you seem to hold and the arguments that you have used to defend your position, but I don't mean for this to act as a negative commentary on who you are. From what I can see of your posts, you mean well. You're not coming from a position of bad faith, you're just going about it in a way that I don't understand, and using arguments in which I can't help but notice flaws. I hope you haven't taken this the wrong way. To all my viewers, though, I hope you all have a great evening, morning, day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are right now, and I hope you'll come back for more videos. On that note, if you've enjoyed this video, and even if you haven't, please rate it, leave a comment down below about what you liked, didn't like, or even just a shitpost for the lulz, and if you'd like to be notified when I publish new videos, just hit that big old subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.